Scrumcraft is committed to empowering individuals and teams through their three core services, each designed to drive meaningful and sustainable change. First, Scrumcraft Academy offers cutting-edge training that goes far beyond basics. They equip you with the practical skills and product delivery, design, and leadership, while also helping you seamlessly integrate AI into your business operations. Their focus on real-world application ensures that you're not just learning, but mastering the skill that truly matters. Next, Scrumcraft Consulting provides expert, human-centered guidance tailored towards your organization's specific needs. Whether it's agile coaching, product ownership, or transformational leadership, Scrumcraft partners with you to address your unique challenges. Together, they'll co-create innovative solutions that foster sustainable growth and drive long-term success. Finally, Scrumcraft Mentoring is dedicated to unlocking your personal and professional potential. Whether you aim to advance your career, enhance your business acumen, or hone your leadership abilities, their mentoring services are tailored to support your unique journey.
Welcome, Venky. I was curious to begin with to ask you the question about what drew you to systems thinking, or less in particular, and were there any key influences or experiences that shaped your journey?
Absolutely, Jason. First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of your um, webcasts and recordings. It's really an honor to be with you. You are one of very few inspiring people around in Australia who keep reinventing yourself and trying to come with new ideas and always very positive. So it's an honor to be part of this dialogue today. Answering your question, each one of us, we go through our own influencers in our lives and career. We come across great people and we tend to learn a lot from them. So one of such person in my life has been Craig Larman, who is the co-inventor of Less. So back in 2002, 2003, while I was working with Valtech in India, Valtech is a French company, and they were doing software development for various customers across the globe, mostly US and Europe. And Craig was the chief scientist of the company, and I used to be a Scrum Master on the ground. I used to work with different teams and different customers. And one of the key responsibility of Craig at that time, being Agile was new, extreme programming and Scrum were the two popular methodologies and the framework that was available at that point of time. We didn't have many of the scaling framework what we are seeing right now, and which was really good for us. It was very clear, and we had access to some of the Agile luminaries because it was not as popular as what we are seeing now. So people, Ron Jeffries, or Kent Beck and Alistair Coburn, they were all available. There were many others as well available. Anyway, Craig used to frequently visit the different branches of Valtech across the globe. Used to visit India as well and trained us on Scrum at that point of time. And we started introducing agile ways of working and specifically applying Scrum on the software deliveries. This company was a mid-sized company at that time. Maybe we were around 200 people, I guess. Many software development activities used to happen quite a bit there. That's where my journey started, where I came across many new concepts. Of course, at that point of time, one of the key challenges that Craig faced was that Scrum has been implemented or introduced only for one team. Scrum is designed only for one team, Scrum framework. However, we had many teams working on products for various customers. So the key question he was asking was, how can we apply Scrum on multiple teams at the same time without diluting its core strength of empirical process control, of inspection, adaptation, and transparency? That was his key question. One of the things that he observed while trying to apply Scrum or scaling Scrum on multiple teams was that in the whole process of scaling, new complexities were introduced, and the whole intent of adaptability was getting lost. The key questions, Scrum never answered. When you have 4 teams, how many product owners are you going to have? When you have 4 teams, how many Scrum Masters are you going to have? Because since it is designed only for one team, that's where the idea of experiments came into picture. And then, of course, for us, being on the ground as a Scrum Master, we just were listening devotedly to whatever Craig Larman says, and then we used to follow many of his ideas. In this whole process, he introduced this concept of uh, systems thinking and lean thinking. I remember distinctly one day. So we used to have a cafeteria on the top of Valtech, and then we used to have lunch there. In various in Indian companies, we used to have a catering inside the office. Caterers used to come lunchtime, and they will serve, and then people can go and serve themselves and have a scrumptious lunch. Craig was also there, and we both of us were waiting in the queue. That's when he started talking about queues.
Yep.
So one of the key things as a mentor that I learned from him was that he used to use every opportunity to explain the concept. So I was standing behind him with plates in hand. He said, "Venky, do you know why we are having this queue? Do you know how long does it take?" I said, "I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes, He said that, no, this is how it works. And he started explaining the concept of queues. And then he went actually to the server, and then he asked him how to change the serving he was doing so that the queue can be reduced. This is the beauty of working with some of the stalwarts like Craig. If you come across such a person, you are blessed, I would say.
Yeah.
I said, wow, wonderful. And then he asked me to read a couple of things. He said, oh, if you're interested in learning more about queues, we should do that. And he said, oh, backlog is a queue, and this is how it whole thing works. And then when we need to always work towards reducing this queue, otherwise it causes delay and everything. That's how queuing theory got introduced. And then we also used to go for walks during after office hours, or in between when there is a break. There used to be a park in front of the house, in front of the building, office building, and then a lot of people used to go for jogging and walking. Then he started talking about systems thinking at that time. I said, what is systems thinking? Then he explained a little bit. He said that, oh, if you are really interested, I have a book called Fifth Discipline. You should read that book. And then the next day, when he came to the office, he had that book, and he said, go ahead, read this book. But you should return it to me next week. That's how I got introduced to the systems thinking concept. My first book on systems thinking was Senge's Fifth Discipline. And I think the week after itself, I ordered from the Amazon US and got this book. And I'm still carrying this book with me even after like 20 years or so. One of the first books that I read on systems thinking.
Lovely.
Yeah, this is how it all started, Jason. Of course, Fifth Discipline takes a long time to really grasp such a complex concepts. So over a period of time, I started able to connect the dots of what they were trying to say, what Senge is trying to say, what Lorman taught me during this whole process of scaling Scrum on multiple teams to where I am today. I know it's a bit of a long story, but But this is the actual incident, and this is exactly how I got introduced to the concept of the word, concept of the systems thinking itself, and lean thinking, queuing theory as well.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I was keen to ask you through that answer was what sort of elements of what Craig was teaching you, or what wisdoms he was imparting, were the things that wowed you the most, that sort of got your teeth into it. But maybe that's some of what you've just described, but maybe there's something else that perhaps maybe influenced you and kept you eager to learn more.
I think his courage to experiment, and then walking the talk, I would say. Um, System thinking, lean thinking, queuing theory is not just in his head. He would literally apply the concepts on the ground. As I said, shared this example of waiting in the queue while waiting to get served during the lunch time. He applies. So each and every interaction you're having with him, for example, if there is an email that you have to send to someone, and you are in the conversation with him, he would say that let us avoid handoff. You directly send the email to them because handoff is a waste. Can you see that? In the conversation itself, the concept of wastes are brought in. And for me, that influenced me quite a bit. So during the day, if you spend 8 hours with him, you would have already learned many, 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 many things about these concepts. So finding that kind of a coach and a mentor is invaluable. Just imagine that you are working with some fantastic mentor like him, and every day spending 8 hours with him, and then he is teaching you every minute the concept, not just terms of a theory, but literally while you're working. Oh, there is a queue here. We should do something about this. Oh, you know what? We should have this meeting with a larger group, because from a systems thinking concept, we need to ensure that we need to align the mental models. It's not just a meeting, say that, hey, you know what, you just go and do the meeting, but you bring that concept there and you connect the dots to say that how actually you can apply these concepts in the real life. So over a period of time, when we spent nearly 2 years working together, I was not the same person whom he met me on the day one. So I was totally different person. So it creates a lot of enthusiasm to learn more and more.
That's awesome. So for listeners that might be unfamiliar with less as a concept, could you provide a brief overview of how it may differentiate from other scaling frameworks?
Yes, absolutely. For those who are new to LESS, which is large scale Scrum, the idea of large scale Scrum is very simple. Again, it is tied to what I already introduced a couple of minutes ago. Scrum is designed for one team, and since Scrum became popular, many organizations started applying the idea of Scrum on multiple teams. They wanted to scale the Scrum. However, there was no answer anywhere. No one has tried or scientifically explained how to scale Scrum. That is when Craig Larman and Buzz Woda, who are the inventors of LESS, did hundreds of experiments over a period of 10 years, and then came up with a framework where you can apply the ideas of Scrum on multiple teams, and that's exactly what LESS is all about. So very similar to LESS, you still have the three key roles of product owner, Scrum Master, and the team, and the events from sprint planning to retrospectives, and few fine tunings have been done to accommodate the larger scope of working with large product development. So fundamentally, less is a product development framework and applying Scrum on multiple teams in the simplest terms.
Awesome. And I've had the benefit of, or the pleasure as well, of attending less courses that you've delivered. And so thank you very much in passing on the wisdoms that you've learnt over the years. And I think, similar to what you said at the beginning, reinventing is a key element of staying ahead and staying competitive, or solving new challenges. What are some of the unique challenges that you've encountered while implementing less? If we just pick, what would be the number one common pattern that you have to overcome as a challenge, and how do you tackle that?
Yeah, great question. Great question. And first, let me acknowledge that. Thank you for your humbleness. You are one of the most experienced coaches I have come across, and also you're so humble to join my course. So it's more humbling to me to have you had the pleasure to have you in the course. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
The challenges part, I would still go back to Larman's laws. Larman has created a law of organizational behavior, and organizations always resist changing the status quo. Always, if you look at one of the laws, they resist the changing the status quo. And if you try to change, and if you try to explain that this is the way it should work, they would term you as a purist, and you are not taking a pragmatic approach. The pragmatic approach in the sense that do exactly what organization is telling you to do rather than questioning the status quo or anything. So that has been the key challenge, if you ask me, the number one challenge everywhere you go. So you need to balance that out. You need to find out. That's where it's better that you trying to tackle the coaching challenges and the buy-in from the top. Of course, from the adoption perspective, Les recommends both the top-down and bottom-up strategy should work. However, first and foremost, in my view, until and unless you don't have the buy-in from the top leadership, it becomes extremely challenging because just like Scrum, it's not just about the sprint plannings and reviews retrospectives. The mindset of the transparency should be there. Psychological safety should be there in the company. Without psychological safety, there is no transparency. People will withhold information because they're afraid. If I tell this, what's going to happen to me and my job? So all these things are tied together. And unlike other frameworks, less challenges the status quo in each and every step. You need to deliver value to the customer at the end of every sprint. You need to build an incremental product. You don't plan for the entire year. You need to avoid queues. You need to encourage systems thinking. All these things are not simple for the organizations to absorb because they're always looking at short-term thinking. They always want something. I want to make quick bucks. I want to get things out quickly. I don't want to spend time in thinking. Don't tell me about all these systems thinking. Don't tell me about all this lean thinking. You just do your retrospective. You have 20 minutes of time, and you do estimation however we want. We want to just get this going. Most organizations are in this mode of short-term thinking. They don't want to invest energy and time in learning, in building a true learning organization. That is what actually is going to help the organizations to be adaptable and survive in this complex world, but they don't want to do it. They are always having a short-term thinking. There is a whole research that most of the CEOs nowadays hardly get 2 years or 3 years to improve their stock prices and stuff like that, and their bonuses are attached to increasing the stock prices. So they only look at, I have only 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be spending time in learning about systems thinking or lean thinking. So what is the easiest way to improve stock prices? I would only look at it. There's nothing wrong in improving the stock price. However, most organizations will end up taking shortcuts to getting there and get out
Yeah.
within the 2 to 3 years. So yeah, that's one of the key challenges that we need to encourage long term. We need to have leaders who can invest time and money in the organization's long term development, and these are all investments. Whatever the effort they're spending in learning, it is not going to help them not only individually but also the entire organization. That's
Mm.
my view.
Yeah. Yes, I've definitely found that as well. That top down as well as bottom up is necessary, because you need to show some demonstration of value as you're going along, which is a bit more bottom up. But you also need that buy-in and support, and the ability to not undermine your efforts by turning over a decision because it's just easier for us to make a decision based on how we currently operate rather than how we could operate in the future, I guess. So I think that's definitely very important, is having both of those things. And I think sometimes you get people in one camp or the other, rather than seeing it as the benefit of both. And it's interesting that it's the adoption is very much back to the people side of things, as opposed to process.
Yep, spot on, spot on.
Yeah. So we've got a question here about the experiments that you had been involved in, and I'm sure you mentioned before about through the journey there were hundreds of experiments. I was thinking about asking a question about your particular experiments that you've run, and was there one that stands out as an all-time favorite for you?
Yeah, the one there were many experiments that I was deeply involved. Of course, at that point of time, I'm not sure whether Craig and Boss thought about creating a less framework out of all these experiments. It was mostly how do we scale Scrum and help the organizations in building great products and delivering value. That was the only thing in everyone's mind. That's my view. So when we were in deep of these experiments, every day we were doing several experiments. So for me, the first one was that the one that really stands out is where in the company back in the 2002, 2003, the company had cubicles structure. The office had invested quite a bit in building the cubicle structure, like individually. You go, you enter the office in the morning, you have your own cubicle, you sit in the cubicle, you have your own phone, and you have your own desktop, you work, and there are few meeting rooms. And if you want to meet your team members, you go from your cubicle to meeting rooms, and then after finishing the meeting, you come back. The cubicle structure was popular in those days, if you remember. In every office, you go, you always have cubicles.
Yeah. Yep.
And Craig said that this is a barrier for collaboration. So we need to get rid of the cubicle structure, and we need to have the team sitting together. Now, nowadays, if you go to office, most of the offices have the standing desks and you don't find cubicles. But back in those days, that was the default. And then coming up with an idea like that, and then trying to explain this to the management that we need to get rid of the cubicles and we need to have everyone sitting together, was the most memorable one, and it happened. And not only that, he also ensured that in those days, the leaders, the CEOs and the CXOs, they used to have their own separate cabins. So he also encouraged all of them to relinquish their cabins and sit with the team. And one day you enter the office, you see CEO sitting in the middle of the floor with everyone else. How transforming it is to see all the company senior management relinquishing their cabins and relinquishing all their the privileges what they had, and then sitting with the rest of the team. So for me, that is still memorable. It is still etched in mind. And Craig himself never used to have any separate cabin or anything. He always used to sit with the team. That's where walking the talk comes into picture.
Yeah.
That is one of the most one of my favorite experiments. There were several other hundreds of experiments we did. Luckily, I have many of those pictures. So something that we used to do was to take pictures and then discuss how it was done, and then of course there were many experiments. The drum buffer rope, critical chain. There were a whole lot of deep um, um, lean and theory of constraints experiment. They were all done. Of course, what we see in less right now is the, I would say, the distilled
Mm.
version, which actually helped us in way. But the experiments are experiments. Like some experiments will be useful. Some experiments, will say that, okay, we found this is not useful. But I'm
Mm.
lucky to have experienced all of them. But answering your question, for me, the first one has been to moving teams from their own cubicles to a co-located place, including all the leaders sitting with their team. Because
Yeah.
this is going back to the idea from a lean, Toyota production system, where their staff engineer is always on the Gemba.
Mm.
You have to be on the Gemba. Otherwise, if the leader doesn't know what your team is doing, how can they make a decision? You cannot make a decision just based on a sprint report sent in a PowerPoint pack. Craig didn't want the leaders to do that. Craig didn't. Craig always wanted the leaders to have first-hand experience of what the teams are actually doing. They should see, and leaders should know more than the team. So if we have engineering manager, then they need to know the deep architecture and coding. They are not just the managers who are doing a HR work,
Mm.
right? So yeah, many of these things have a deeper meaning attached to ideas borrowed from Toyota production systems and systems thinking and all those things. So it is not just that we just need to move from cubicle to why should leaders come and sit with the team, including the CEO. They were all explained very well. That's one of the key things that we need to know. We need to explain. We need to let people know why they are being um, asked to change uh,
Mm-hmm.
their way of working.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually leads on nicely to a question I've been thinking about, which is there any secret sauce in your opinion to highlighting or holding the mirror up and showing that here's an experiment that we'd like to do? Is there a secret sauce to putting together a case for conducting an experiment?
Ah, not sure if there is any secret sauce. It was for us while we were in the part of those experiments. It was as simple as just understanding what that experiment is all about and why do we need to do it. What is the
Yep.
benefit? Uh, so we used to have a conversation, a few of us, um, and then work with Craig, who knew what the experiment was, to just go and try it out. And
Mm.
then we used to have a time box though.
Okay.
How long should we do? Uh,
Uh,
One of the experiments, example we tried doing was, at that time, I also have a background in programming. So we used to have something called the bamboo. it was a continuous integration server. So at that point of time, configuring XML was all very complex, and individually, each and every product team trying to have their own server configured for a continuous integration, we felt was taking too much of effort. So one of the experiments we wanted to do was why can't we centralize this? However, we also wanted to ensure that we have our clients as well. We can't affect the deliverables. So we gave a time box to ourselves saying that, what, we will experiment this for the next 1 week and then see if it is adding all the benefits that we expect it to get out of having centralized continuous integration server or not. So you need to have a time box. Communication is the key, and transparency about why we are trying to do what we are trying to do and what is the benefit. Of course, you are able to do all these things provided the organization has a culture of psychological safety. If you're always fearful that if you fail in that experiment, if you're going to be crucified by the company, no one wants to do that. So fundamental thing you one needs to have in the organization is that organization needs to have the risk-taking culture. Organization should be open for innovation and open to giving a psychologically safe environment. As long as that, maybe in this conversation, I'm getting to your answer. That's the secret recipe.
Yeah.
Having a good psychologically safe environment with management open to hear about failures, accepting the failures of experiments. If they're always expecting that, oh, you're doing this, so then show me the return on investment, otherwise we will pull the plug. You will never survive. You cannot innovate in such companies, in my view.
Yeah.
So I can't stress enough that if the organization really needs to succeed, they need to create that psychologically safe environment to run any experiment.
What does psychological safety mean to you?
So it's in my view, organizations hire people because they believe that they are fantastic for the company.
Yeah.
Of course, when you hire fantastic people, great people, they bring diversity of thought. They bring diversity and different perspective to everything. Providing opportunity for all diversity of thought, having a conversation to understand where people are coming from, making them to feel safe so that they can express their thought processes for the greater good of the organization is what psychologically a safe environment mean. In many organizations, employees are extremely fearful to express their opinions and thoughts. They are fearful to challenge the status quo. Because organizations are very clear that whoever changes the status quo, you are a purist, you are not a pragmatist, and you can be branded, and one can have a lot of effect on their career growth, etc. It's a system issue. So I would consider that when an employee is unable to express their views in a safe manner, that is a psychologically unsafe environment.
Sure.
We need to provide opportunity for everyone to express. Another example, we have already seen the what's happening with the Boeing. The problem started back in 2009 or sometime ago, and there are a whole lot of stories around the short-term thinking has led to a psychologically unsafe environment, and people couldn't question. So people just said, okay, we will do whatever you asked me to do. And where we are is the company is going through a lot of turmoil with so many challenges and so many failures and etc. etc. So it's a classic example. That's exactly what's going to happen. In
Mm.
my view, it is like a frog in a boiling water. They won't see that coming,
Yes.
but eventually um, it will hit the company if they're not providing psychologically safe environment.
So it's definitely playing for the long game, to create a learning culture and a psychologically safe environment for people to experiment is it's part of the challenge of adoption, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
So what are your thoughts on this notion or this concept that the world of agile as we know it is changing, and there's a lot of chatter, if you like, about this concept that agile is dead. Um, what what are your thoughts around that notion?
There is definitely some kind of a shift I see, at least in the social media, and of course, another reflection. We have this concept of a lagging and a leading indicator, right? So the number of job posting that you see about for coaching and Scrum Mastery and all these things is a reflection of what's happening in the market as well, in my view.
Mm.
Um, if you look at all of them, and also including the social media conversation, the chatter, um, the organization seems to be um, trying to learn from the last few years of their own experiences implementing various agile ways of working with Scrum Masters, working with the coaches. Um, of course, when anything that gets popular also um, could cause its own challenges.
Mm.
So my own view on this whole concept is that we had Scrum becoming popular. We had a certified Scrum Master program, CSMs. So there was a need for many Scrum Masters. So overnight, we ended up having hundreds and thousands of Scrum Masters. Um, Anyone and everyone who has attended 2 days training ended up becoming a Scrum Master without really understanding what Scrum Master needs to do. So
Mm.
it kind of ended up becoming like a cookie cutter approach. Organizations, I'm sure that same thing happened in the coaching space as well. And of course, now we have various scaling framework became popular as well. Scaling took the focus. Again, everyone went behind many of the scaling frameworks,
Mm.
certifications around it, without fundamentally asking question, why are we doing what are we doing? We lost that focus on the Agile manifesto, the 4 values and 12 principles
Mm.
that actually gave birth to all these things. We forgot that. So I'm suspecting that, of course, when you end up having so much of dilution in the market, people will really start questioning, are we investing in the right place? That's my view.
Yeah.
Um, however, it is just in my view that organizations need coaches. Organizations cannot go back to waterfall way of working, where you plan for 12 months, or write a 200-page document and then seal it. That's not going to happen, right? Um, if that happens, that's when possibly I would say that, oh, Agile is dead. But I don't think I have not come across any organization who says that for the next 3 years, we'll plan for the next 3 years and we will do requirement analysis for the next 8 months, design for the 3 months, coding for. I don't think any organization is doing that.
Mm.
Organizations are still doing their own way of sprints,
Mhm.
their own way of Scrum Mastery. Yes, many of the Scrum Mastery work is ended up becoming more like a project, a bit of a project management there. Um, product ownership is also diluted. However, still organizations have a role of a PO.
Yeah.
Organizations still have coaches, but not sure whether what they're doing are supposed to be what they're doing, because it's all because of the dilution that has happened in the last few years. So on the ground, they're still doing sprints. They still have Scrum Master. They still have product owners. Only thing is that it has been diluted a little bit.
Mm.
And I'm pretty convinced since based on my last 20, 30 years of experience in the IT industry, that organizations need coaches. We need someone to challenge the status quo, someone who knows a deeper meaning of some of the good concepts like lean thinking, systems thinking, and all these things, without which, um, if you just let the existing management to run the delivery, they will still do the delivery, they will still beat the shit of people and get things done, no doubt about it. But that's not the right way of doing a product development, software development, and delivering value to the customer.
Yeah.
If the organization needs to survive in this complex world, just to reiterate what I said earlier, we need to have a psychologically safe environment. So who is going to explain these concepts? Who is going to nudge the leaders that, hey, you know
Mhm.
what, this is not a safe thing to do. If there is no one to challenge the status quo, which is typically done by the agile coaches, the organizations are doomed to failure.
Mhm.
So I'm convinced that the organizations need um, agility, adaptability. They need good coaches, no doubt about it. It's just that now they are just revisiting how it is being done, and then we will end up still coming back, but maybe a, a better way of doing agile way of working. So it's just
Mhm.
a phase shift. It'll adjust a little bit, but you need those people. You need someone to challenge them. You need people who knows how to structure the team. You need to know how to structure the organizations. You need to explain someone to know what cross functionality means. You need someone to explain the importance of having the WIP limits and the queues and the harmful effects of queues. Of course, we
Mhm.
cannot have it now because of the dilution, but that's what the real coaches do, to challenge the
Mhm.
status quo, to create psychologically safe environment and nudging the leaders and all those things. So we'll go back. So if you're a good coach, if you're in the industry, if you're able to gain in-depth experience on some of these fundamental concepts, we will still be able to guide the organizations to be truly adaptive
Mhm.
in the current context. Yeah, that's my view.
It sounds like some of the greater qualities of a Scrum Master and the greater qualities of a coach. Um, Scrum Masters could benefit a lot from taking a leaf out of a coach's book and staying resilient in tough times where you're being pushed back on and asked to perform more of a project manager role, or more of a role that's diluting the effectiveness of what a good Scrum Master could offer. And I think maybe the experience in being able to be resilient and pushing back on those concepts could favor Scrum Masters and differentiate good Scrum Masters in market and make them more those individuals more appealing um, to recruitment.
Spot on, Jason. Spot on. You articulated really, really well. We should still explain the key concepts, ensure that we maintain that integrity to the role. Yes, there will be a different type of work that they will end up doing it, but
Mm.
that doesn't mean that they need to sacrifice and then say that, oh, you know what, all these things are not useful, and let me go back and then do something else. I think you articulate really well. We need to ensure that the good Scrum Masters needs to uh, spend time in understanding the deeper concepts
Yeah.
and teach the leaders about this. There's still a lot of good leaders around. They will listen to you. We just need to align with some of them and then explain the challenges in the organization and how they can be fixed.
Yeah, maybe just start with your philosophy around experimentation. Time box it. Suggest that you'll measure the return on investment for that time box as part of that experiment, and usually it comes down to a dollar value, doesn't it? Somewhere along the line, and I guess if you're able to show that there's going to be some form of savings somewhere, time is money, right? So again, everything comes back down to dollars. If you can show some savings somewhere, that's usually a good way to get leader buy-in to experiment. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the key things that leaders will listen to the numbers. So as long as we're able to connect the dots about why we are doing what we are doing, rather than just telling them, oh, you know what, you just need to do this. That's when the challenge comes in. They will lose the trust. But if you're spot on.
Yeah, trust is so important. Where does Agile go from here? Or the evolution of less itself. Like what's next for less?
Less also has been, we have reviewed, as you might have seen, some of the posts in the recent days from Basoda, where we have created our own Scrum guide now.
Yeah.
We are taking some deviation there. People are also doing a lot of experiments on the ground as well, and we challenge our own thought processes on various concepts. But at the moment, so far, many organizations across the globe are adopting less in their own way. Sorry, when I say, I don't say in their own way, in their own pace, I would say. And it is quite stable. And as and when we hear any feedback, anyone challenging the status quo of the ideas that we have, we definitely get into the dialogue with them. We're trying to understand where people are coming from. And if the ideas are valid, then it's not like a one-man decision or anything. It is the decision of the entire the community. Community gets involved here. So that's the beauty that I'm seeing with less as well, that any feedback, any inputs, we take it and we review it and then see if that experiment or the idea holds good, and then we go back and update the framework. So that's been the journey. If you see all the changes that has happened since 2017 or so, you can see the changes, but they're all small incremental changes. It's not just that we just need to get hold of each and every new thing that's coming into that, but we also challenge that anything new that's coming up, we challenge that how does it fit into what we are trying to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Look, I really appreciate your time and the conversation that we've had so far. And I'll also share the links to your social apps and to your website and that sort of thing in the chat, so that people can get in contact with you to ask you more questions if they've got other questions. Thank you very much again for spending the time having the conversation about less and your journey through experimentation. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Jason. The 1 hour really went in a jiffy. You're excellent in asking very engaging questions. So
That's
it's a pleasure and honor to be here with you today, and hopefully we get more opportunities to have such conversations in the future as well.
Absolutely. Welcome you back anytime.
Thank you.
Great.